Good, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Good day. Okay. How's everyone? Okay. Thank you very much. And I wish to remind you that yesterday we were trying to understand to some level what is philosophy in terms of its historical background. What are the key components of philosophy? Why philosophy is needed? And perhaps to some extent how it links with another form of inquiry, which is science. So see, in the process, we spend a lot of time. I mean, apparently, either this subject is too boring or too interesting. That on the one hand, there are like questions for 45 minutes, and I still have a box full of questions. On the other hand, this is apparently subject which is just way away from our way of thinking. We do science, but we don't do science in terms of philosophical discourse. So we are imperialist. We are more of related to observation and experiment, but we hardly think about the fundamental concept of hypothesis, why it is developed, and later how induction is developed, how conclusion are developed, and how are we sure that what we have concluded is really a conclusion. It eventually to understand that the knowledge we are trying to generate, is it really a true knowledge or just a speculation or guesswork? So we miss that very important component of doing good science, which is perhaps possible through understanding of how science is done, and what science means, what is the objective, how you would do that, what are the key components of a good scientific theory, and how a good scientific results can be obtained. So, number of things which we were trying to understand, and absolutely means that we were just halfway through, about 2 hour, 15 minutes or something like this, and we just covered only a few slides. So I don't even know what to do. To be honest, either we just fast forward all the slides and complete this course, or slowly and gradually try to learn it and have the second version. I'll leave it to you. Okay, maybe next week or something. May discuss it a bit more profoundly. So I wish to remind you that philosophy addresses several important issues.
Recording in progress.
Nature of the world and existence of God. I told you that there is unfortunately, the context in which Greek philosophy was developed was, and there were so many god and goddesses, and they had, they were fighting. They had all human attributes, weaknesses, problems, issues, jealousies, love, hate, and then philosophers said, "It can't be God. The God should really be different. Apart from all these human weaknesses, should be somewhere in between, up on the heaven, and that God should have godly properties, not the human properties. And what godly properties are, what is God? Yes, they keep discussing about it. And what is existence? You do really need, do we exist? Are we sure we exist? Because we see dream, we have hallucination, when we dreaming something, everything profoundly looks so real. So is it this a dream as we are watching it? What is time? Is it abstract? Or does it exist? Has anyone has seen time? You know, we may have seen day and night, but is it really a time or just a cyclical process of a nature? And what is soul? What is death? What is the existence? What a person look like? You know, if I'm a person with two hands and two legs, then somebody who lost one limb because of an accident, is he a three-fourth person? What is brain and mind? Brain is a biological object, but mind is feeling and thinking. Is it different? So there are so many profound questions which philosophers were trying to answer from metaphysical methods. You know, this above physics, beyond this natural object. There's so much thing which may perhaps not be confirmed or refuted by science. But what is the right way of thinking and building argument? You know, logic. Logic is extremely important in science as well as in philosophy, and we will see how logical. I mean, we always reason. We do reasoning all the time. We have this critical thinking about everything. The reason why you're here, because you think this course may help you to understand philosophy. This is your reason. You woke about 5 minutes before 10:30 because you knew that if you start late, you would not be able to reach here at 10:30. This is reasoning, right? Reasoning is everywhere. You know, from carrying an umbrella to taking a bottle of water in hot weather, and all these are reasoning. But logic is a systemic reasoning, critical reasoning, way of reasoning. So it is a philosophy of reasoning. How would you reason it? And epistemology. What do we know? Is it really a knowledge or just a belief, opinion, or superstition? You know, is this a real knowledge? That there is a difference between belief and knowledge, right? One can believe something, it may not necessarily be a knowledge, or it may not necessarily be a true knowledge. So a true knowledge, true belief is a knowledge. But what is true belief? So many of how do we go from wrong to right ethics? You know, what are the moral values? How society progress in terms of morality? How people become virtuous, good nature, pious? You know, what is the ethics? And that is also an extremely important component of philosophy, because philosophers were trying to understand what is right, what is wrong. You know, is there anything which is called absolute right? Or is just your right is different from my right, and your wrong is different from my wrong? Is more subjective or is objective? Can you measure right and wrong? Right? What is the fundamental? I mean, is this intention which is right, or is the result which is right? Is that you intend to do something is more important than the results of what you have done? You understand? You know, like in our religion, intention is the basis of virtue. So there are a lot of fundamental questions. And what is the best form of governance? Societies grew from Neolithic time when people start harvesting, cultivating. The population start growing, the towns become cities, cities have to be governed. What is the best way of governing cities? Right? Cities are expanded, they become kingdoms, and what is the best way of governing these kingdoms? Is this dynasties, dynastical, kingship, democracy, theocracy, or whatever? Is a philosopher has to be a king, or a priest has to be a king? You know, is this a person selected on the basis of virtue or intelligence? Is it better to have a pious person, or is it better to have an intelligent person? You know, what is the way of governance? And what is beauty? Beauty was an extremely important option because, you see, people were always wondering in historical context of something which I found beautiful. You may not really find it attractive. So is this the object which is beautiful, or is this is more of a what I perceive and think that? Art, music, creation, creativity of different types. So, it's just why do I find something beautiful while others don't? So is there any absolute form of beauty? Universal agreement on what beauty is? Do you have any universal agreement for beauty? No, we don't. We all have. So these were all profound questions. For instance, in ancient Greek culture, these sculptures, statues were form of art, and they were often nude. Is nudity is a beauty or not? Or is it an ugliness? Everyone see it in a very different perception. I like classical music. Many of you don't like it because some of you are Gen Zs or whatever. You like pop. For me, it's more of a noise. I get upset when I listen to this. I like beautiful paintings where everything is clear. And you would really find people standing in front of an abstract art, which I don't even know is a chicken or a person. So is this, what is this? So there were so many of these things which we're wondering. But philosophy is different from the other forms which I told you: fancies, religion, science, superstition, popular belief, because philosophers question. We stop questions, therefore we stop thinking. And when we stop thinking, we become trivial. Thinking take you to the next level. And thinking comes from questions, constant questions, one after the other. Every time you question, the answer becomes more refined, and a person starts thinking more deeply. So questioning is very important. Critically, generally systemic approach towards issues, problems, questions. And it relies on rational argument and dialectical discourse, not an experiment. Philosophy, I'll tell you the context. The philosophers were often rich people. They were not workers or slaves or people who do their work by hand. They were often rich, aristocrats, males, right? And they have nothing to do but to discuss argument, except Socrates. Socrates' mother was a midwife. His father was a stonemason. He used to make statues and sculptures. Socrates was uniquely different, but the other are rich people. So they used to think working by hand is not a good thing. So they developed a kind of a philosophy, and you may disagree with that, which based on reasoning, because they had this very profound thinking that observation may be wrong. senses sometimes misguide you. So they said the best way of going closer to the truth is rationality, thinking, argument, refining, reflection. Every time iteration, every time you reflect and discuss, you go closer to the truth. This is what they used to do. And there are many ancient, medieval, modern, contemporary philosophers. You know these terms? Okay. Anything before 500 BC is called ancient. Between 500 to 1500 BC is called medieval. This was the golden age of Islam. This was the best period in which Muslims have contributed to medicine. And contemporary modern philosopher, even today, from 1800 till date, are called modern or postmodern. Modern philosopher, pre-modern, modern, postmodern. Today, the philosophers are postmodern because they are after modernity come. So this is the kind of, and some of the greatest scholars who really made philosophy popular and contributed immensely in developing the knowledge base. Al-Farabi was on the first, who was born somewhere in 600 BC. Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, Al-Ghazali, Ibn Khaldun, they are philosophers. Of course, Al-Ghazali was uniquely different, but he was super critical on Greek philosophy. While Ibn Khaldun, his book, Muqaddimah, is a fascinating book in which he says that Greek philosophy still holds true. Al-Farabi was one of those individuals who tried to mix religion with philosophy. He was among the most, it's called second teacher. First teacher is Socrates. So he was, and then Immanuel Kant, Hegel, Marx, Karl Popper, Hume, many more who are philosophers of science. But let me just take you through again what I mentioned yesterday. What is dialectical methods? And this is what I really want you to develop in yourself. I think this is the best way of learning. I told you that there are three ways of interacting, communication. One is called discussion, casual discussion, as we often do. Right? The second is, in discussion, there is no one worries about who is what is the outcome of that discussion, whatever. We may end up with a better understanding and all that. The discussion is free flowing. Then there is a debate, which is structured, which is meant to win an argument. You debate because you wish to convince the person in front of you and everyone who's listening that you are right. And in that pursuit of winning the argument, one can go to any extreme. Yes, you see this on TV every day between 0 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Right? They're trying to debate without any intellectual input. And they often win the argument, but they lose in terms of knowledge. Because their pursuit is not to learn more, it's just their pursuit, their outcome is just to win the argument. And there is a dialectical discourse, which was started by Socrates, and this is questioning. So, dialectical discourse, you ask questions, innocent questions, you keep asking it. And you don't argue, because your objective is not to win the argument, but to learn. And you keep doing it, and this is And then you stand up and say, thank you very much. I have learned a lot also. And you leave a person equally knowledgeable. Because every time a question is answered, meeting gets better, 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 and more refined. This is called dialectical discourse. You may agree to disagree. You don't fight, right? You don't fight because not the objective of it was not the objective of dialectical discourse. The objective was to understand, to be closer to truth. So this is exactly what, and it's not rhetoric. Rhetoric means persuasion. Like like politicians giving speeches or advertisement. You must buy this, right? And you must give me a vote, right? And I'm the best person. And Pope Leo doesn't know anything, right? He's absolutely unaware of. So this is the kind of discourse. And what are the big questions of philosophy? Many philosophical questions look simple, but it's very difficult to answer them. In fact, there is no absolute answer. You can keep answering it and you go deeper and deeper and deeper of the truth. But thinking about them systematically and clearly by using logic and epistemology help to improve your critical thinking and gain a better understanding of ourselves or yourself and the world around us. Have we ever thought why we are here? Our birth was not incidental. There must be some purpose that we are here. Right? Have we ever thought about it? We don't. We don't think about it. We become more of a biological animals with survival instinct. We just wish to survive and survive better. But what is the purpose of our presence here? Right? Nature of reality. Theoretically, I have changed in last 3 years. Every atom in me, every cell in me is completely changed. Science proved it. Yeah, the cell proliferation and apoptosis and necrosis replaced Iqbal completely in 3 years. At the same time, my thinking has changed. My opinion has modified, right? My belief may have changed as well. You still call me Iqbal? Theoretically, no, right? So what is you? Are you still the same as you were 3 years ago? What is reality? Right? And a person is called a human being with the definition of a thinking animal, thinking species. A child who cannot think because of autism, does it define to be a human being? Can't think, right? So, nature of reality. What is real? Goes for heaven, Why virtues has to be good that we hope that afterlife, if there is any for philosophers, we go to heaven. What is heaven? Right? Heaven is different for different, For instance, in some of the largest religions in the world, there is no heaven. There's no afterlife. There's reincarnation. You keep coming back and back and again. And then for another big religion, there is no afterlife. Right? Many biblical religions are same philosophy of hell and heaven. And so, how to make a good society? Thank you so much. How to make a good society? What is actually a good society? Is a good society which is a rich society, or is a good society which is more caring society for each other? A good society is the one which has more happiness or are more tools, right? A good society with many cars, or a good society with people walking in happiness and discussing what is good society. A good society which educate uh, uh, virtuous act all around, or a good society which is so powerful that invade others. What is the definition of a good society? What is beauty? Is just keep wondering us. What is right? What is wrong? What is the purpose of life? What is soul? A person drop dead. Everything is there. We call him, he is no more. Chale gaye. He's still there. Right? What God? Have anyone ever seen something coming out of body, going up, and never seen it? What is soul? Science says it is a biological malfunction, right? But is this an answer which satisfies you? It doesn't really. So there are so many of these questions. As I said, this is a philosophy, Socrates' dialogue, argument based on premises and conclusion. We'll discuss that. Search for truth through reason, logic, as truth has the highest value. This is what everybody is trying to develop. Now, among them, there are various forms and ways of philosophy which help us to achieve better think. Deals with metaphysical questions, questions which are not physical, like a big drop and all that. But questions such as why exists, what is time, what is reality, what is God, what is purpose of life, what is virtuous, what is vicious, what is wrong, what is beauty, they all are metaphysical. Brain is science, mind is metaphysical, right? Thinking and feelings are metaphysical to a larger extent. So, question which does not fit anywhere else are metaphysical questions. What is object? What does it mean X might have been true? A theory, a law, an opinion. What is cause? What cause and effect? There is a theory of cause and effect. You know this. A cause eventually lead to effect. Infection eventually lead to fever. So cause and effect. What is property? What is fundamental nature of time? The field has changed over the years, medieval to modern. And time has been a fascinating thing. There is temporal dimension. Temporal dimension is the time dimension. We don't know what time is. We can think about time, but people can have different definitions. So epistemology, and there is a very, very important form. What is knowledge? Let me ask Mahmood again. Any idea of how pyramids were constructed?
Yes, there is a lot of theory.
Lot of
Theory. But till now, we don't have the exact clue to build the global.
Why don't we have an exact clue? Because
With,
I believe that there are script.
yeah, but at some time they separated from our village. There's some engineering process, some theory, some again demolish the other theory. So we don't know exactly.
How do you know that they were theorists or engineers?
Because the ancient Egyptians described the building pyramid on the tombs of their kings.
Someone said. Someone said. So this knowledge, is this a true knowledge? I don't. That is the, you know, this is the most beautiful part of it. Socrates says, the day when I accepted my ignorance was the day when I started becoming knowledgeable. Knowledge and ignorance. Every big knowledge discipline started from ignorance. Science is accepting the ignorance. The day when people have courage to accept ignorance was the best day in the world. When they say, I don't know, as Mahmoud said, this was the first step of building, developing knowledge. Science is the result of accepting ignorance. So to other form, knowledge can only be claimed when we have adequate justification of our belief. In other words, knowledge is a justified true belief. It is a branch of philosophy, it inquires knowledge. Everything based on knowledge, but this field is test knowledge. Is it what you're building everything on the basis of knowledge? Is it really a knowledge? Or is it just a belief or opinion? The central question of epistemology is what is knowledge as opposed to belief? Can we be sure that we have any knowledge? What things do we in fact know? Do we really know anything? Really? So, this is what someone has constructed. The belief, so many of beliefs, you can analyze in your own thinking what are the beliefs. And there are truth, which we don't know. When a belief is a true belief, is knowledge. Other than everything is not knowledge. When a belief is a true belief, justifiable true belief, is knowledge. Remember, there is a difference between knowledge and information. Information is just a set of data which you learn from somewhere. Knowledge is profoundly different. It means it is closer to the truth, right? And remember, there is a recent book of, not recent, published last year, of Yuval Noah Harari. It's called Nexus. Called Theory is History of Information. And he said all major wars in the world were because of misinformation, not information. All major problems in the history of the world were because of misinformation, intentional or unintentional. Just the other nation is preparing to slaughter us. An excellent tool to make people ready for fight, right? Or these migrants would eventually make us, our culture and our way of life obsolete, and then these migrants will take over our country right-wing politics is just all based on it. So there's so much of misinformation. Knowledge, logic is the study of principles of correct reasoning. Augment use either deductive reasoning, and then we will discuss the deductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is when given certain statement called premises and conclusion is wrong, from general to specific. And this is used in science for building hypotheses. Building hypothesis. All plants produce their nutrients by photosynthesis. Therefore, moringa produce its nutrient with photosynthesis also, right? All cells reproduce through a DNA replication. Therefore, bacteria reproduce through DNA replication as well. So from generalized to specific is building hypothesis that we just explained.
What about hindsight bias? I mean, let's say I believe that the deal has thousands of people wrong, and it just happens that it does have that. Coincidentally, my belief was justified and
It's by chance.
yes, but
Because you have not, there is, you see, you thought that Vachi has thousands of these things. Okay. Is your belief that he has some money, right? It happened to be true also. But there was no mechanism through which it was tested. I use the word called justified true knowledge. How do we justify that Vaji has thousands of bees in his pocket? Unless we don't do that, it remains a belief. Remember, there's also something very interesting. There are two things. There is called patternization, pattern. And there's also called incidental and accidental happenings. You build your knowledge on the basis of a set pattern, not on accidental discoveries, right? The accidental discoveries eventually lead to a lot of discoveries also, but then they become patterns. On the other hand, inductive reasoning is probabilistic reasoning. Based on probability of events, leads to a conclusion. From specific to general, every day, without exception, I read paper of my students. I spend many days on that. And this is compound X, which was found to be active against cancer cell line, is an anti-cancer compound which can help humanity a lot. And I wonder how come this very specific small set of experimentation can make this person believe that this compound can solve all cancer problems. This is a wrong generalization, Of course, this generalization can become closer to truth if there are a lot of cell lines, in vivo studies, animal studies were conducted, where you have so much of data set, then eventually you say that this may serve as an anti-cancer. This is the reason why scientists supposed to have humility is an attribute of scientists. They never use word confirmed. They use word maybe, indicating, right? So remember, and I remember my teacher, Professor Robert Hoffman in Cornell, who was a Nobel laureate. He used to say, you see, science has scientists have huge issues. Often they are ethically wrong. For instance, he used to give example. They synthesize a compound and they synthesize this 200 times, but they report the best yield. They don't report the worst yield. They never report what happened in between, how many flasks were broken, who got fume inhaled and dropped dead or something. Nothing is written, only the best picture and rosier picture is produced. And when somebody is trying to reproduce it, he said, good Lord. He thinks that my experimental design is not that good. My experimental handling is poor. Therefore, I'm not able to reproduce the work of Anna. Okay. So this is a fundamental problem. Humility is very, very important. So logic is of two different types. For instance, it's based on two premises, or three premises, more. For instance, all men are mortal. All people will die. One premise. Aristotle is a man. Second premise. Therefore, Aristotle is a mortal. Conclusion. If the premises are correct, then the conclusion is correct. If anything of that is incorrect, then the conclusion would also be incorrect. And that could be two or more particular generalizations. For instance, silver conduct electricity. Very specific information. Gold conduct electricity. Copper conduct electricity. Therefore, all metals conduct electricity. Generalization. But specific to generalization. This generalization would be better generalization, and there are more premises. Right? If anything of that is wrong, the conclusion would be wrong. So it's called logical way of thinking. Two or more particular and the generalization inductive argument is silver is solid, gold is also solid, copper is also solid, therefore all metals are solid. Right? Deduction is correct. And here at that point of our time, the science become distinctly different. Every philosopher was doing some kind of a pseudoscience or ancient science or something. Though in theory they didn't really ever believe on empiricism, and that makes philosophy different from science. But see the picture of this is Socrates. Sorry, this is Plato, and this is Aristotle, and this is Academy. It still exists. 300 years, this was the center of higher learning in Athens, Greece. And then there were two different opinions. Plato said through reasoning, through argument, better understanding ethics and governance, we can go closer to the perfect form. Remember I told you perfect form is it? Perfect purity, perfect governance, perfect everything. So we can go closer to the perfect form if we reason, we argue, and we refine thinking, and then eventually at the end of the day we change our act. And Aristotle, he said, you may be right. But you see, one way of improving our understanding is to look what exists here. So his hand, to look here, this, okay? So experimentation, comparison observation can also be a good form of knowledge seeking. So there was, at this time, science was born because Aristotle was officially the first ancient scientist of his time. He decided to leave academy. He went to an island away from Athens. This island was full of plants and animals and sea creatures and all that. And he developed an academy called Lyceum. Lyceum had no building. Lyceum was a group of people who just used to walk. They used to walk. They called walking school. And they used to just observe what is happening to plants, why they die, why they grow, why seeds convert into a plant also. And some grow larger, some grow smaller, and some grow on the other parasites. And on the shore, they found animals with many legs, they found animals without any fish, octopus and others, and different kinds of things also. And they developed lots of understanding. So first botany, first cosmology, first oceanography, first evolution. They wrote many books. Lyceum was the center of writing many books. So many of them are found to be from, in terms of modern science, they don't really hold still valid today because this was but at that time, this was state of the art. This was the best knowledge one can produce from available resources too. So science was born. All of these sciences grow from philosophical roots. Ancient Greek philosopher, particularly Aristotle, laid the foundation of ancient science. And it's called natural philosophy. The list was, I said, about logic, epistemology, metaphysics, political philosophy, aesthetics, ethics, etc. Natural philosophy was added. And this is a branch of philosophy where people used to study nature in the light of philosophical questions. So before, and this really went on for a long period of time, only in 19th century, the word scientist started. Before that, everybody was, Sir Isaac Newton was a natural scientist, natural philosopher. Darwin was a natural philosopher. They were all natural philosophers. And even today, you get the last degree of philosophy. And then when empiricism, science has claimed to be a superior form of knowledge than philosophy, there was a tug of war. At that point, scientists start thinking that they are superior than philosophers, right? Because they claim that they do things empirically and therefore they know better. And I still remember a debate which I had listened to. Just let me complete this. And there was a philosopher and a scientist. He said, see today, there's so much of technological development. It's like a magic. Skyscrapers, Hoover planes, people going to the moon or Mars and looking into different galaxies and development of new technologies and others and all that. And philosophers said, tell me true, are we better off than before? Can you claim that hunter-gatherers were less happier than us? What is the ultimate aim of this technological development? We developed atomic energy that has killed millions of people. We developed technologies which pollute the world, which is making this world an existential threat. At some point of time, everything will melt and people will die. Like this is extinction of of dinosaurs. You develop information tools, there are more hate. You talk about a global village, there are 29 conflict zones in the world. The more children and women die today, killed by using technological development than ever in the history before. How do you think that you're superior than us? Because if you could have worked with us, we could have told you that this science has to be used for this purpose. You disconnected from us. As a result of it, you become astray. You become tool of so-called greedy, short-sighted politicians. You become a servant and labor of them. You helped increase consumption. You are extremely smart, but at the same time you're super stupid. Because your science does not really based on philosophical depth, ethical values, and moral checks, right? So there's so many of these philosophical questions which eventually arise. And what is science? Science is investigative endeavor whose object is the natural world and natural phenomena, right? This is extremely important, very, very important. And science is a tool developed and employed by human when human interrogate natural world. Part of this understanding include explanation and prediction of natural phenomena. This is, and there is no single definition of science, to be honest, right? There are so many definitions of science. I want you to ask something.
For its life, according to this, if you take us about the definition, we have this is two words. We have two categories of people. One of half master, the second half doctor. What's the difference now between the master and the doctor? They are looking at
Let's start knowledge. I don't know. Of course, in my understanding, this is the kind of a. But you think degree is.
We give him.
No.
So we can give him another definition. No need doctor because now we are living in this issue in Arabic countries. We have this issue. This is the doctor. My guy told his medicine. Doctor who work in the hospital. No, I am a teacher in the university. I have the PhD. So why should this do? I
am not really sure. I mean, I am PhD, right? Doctor of philosophy. I don't know. I've never learned philosophy. They gave me a degree of philosophy. So kind of that, but I wanted to be doctor of science. Of course, we got it eventually. So, but do you think that people with a degree are more knowledgeable than the people with no degree? What is this?
So you are making me lost.
No, but you have to.
I was young. I did this. About the philosophy. Why?
You hit it.
Yeah.
Why you hit it?
Because when you discuss with anyone, he take you from knowledge to lost. To lost. That you lost. And if he didn't take you to the safe place, you will still this lost for some months.
Totally.
It is happened with when you decide for Islam or religious, and if you want to for the Shia Sunnah. Like this agreements or transaction, it's the same. They use the philosophy now. But with someone, okay, he give you some agreements, he give you some reasons, and you start to believe him. And he take it from what thing you are comfortable with this thinking, and he take you to another place for those things. Now, And if you didn't jump to another place, I discussed with many you for days. You have to escape like this because the loss is suffering. No, mashallah.
Yeah. So this is a real dilemma because, to be honest, philosophy is not taught. As a result of it, we don't really think. When we don't really think profoundly, then we are lost. We lost not because somebody has guided us to a wilderness. We lost because we don't really think. Right? This is a problem. Not that somebody is guiding you to the wilderness. You should never be guided to a wilderness. But you should understand that we know very little. And this is the best way of learning more and more. And thinking. And as character says, because I think, therefore I am. If I don't think, फिर ज्यादा सबका कौन सा शेर है जिंदों में शुमार करूं जो सोचता भी नहीं उसको वो डेस्कैरिकस के लिए and this is the cyclical form of what eventually happened. And remember, this is cyclical. Science is cyclical. Philosophy is cyclical also. Science, iteration. Philosophy, iteration. Every time you do more and more, you become better and better. So, exploration and discovery, making observation, asking questions, sharing data, exploring the literature, finding inspiration, developing hypotheses, interpretation, then doing actual experimental interpretation of data, you publish, you go to the community, and then you address a societal problem. There are two different reasons you do science. You do science. Why do you do science, Adil? So you do science for your own sake.
Get knowledge that I can extend to others.
So you're learning science for humanity.
For humanity, for example.
What is your main motivation of doing science?
For example, I can find something in science which will give me more.
What is the purpose of science? Why do you do science? Not for degree, my dear.
The degree is not something.
So if I tell you that you will not get the degree, but you will learn a lot, and I'll call Sami and said that Adil has agreed not to get the degree.
I didn't need to promote himself. Promotion.
I can find the curriculum.
Self-control. So everybody has a different reason, isn't it? This is what I wanted to. So it's not lost, it's thinking. Okay? Everybody, yes. Who wanted to?
I thought that degree, I want to tell about the discussion. Degree is the key to embrace the knowledge, and the knowledge is present in every mind of a person. If he had not a degree, if a person with degree or a person with who had not a degree, there are two kind of person, knowledgeable, and both are also have knowledge, but the person with degree embrace the knowledge in people as like you. If you have a degree, you are on the stage and you are giving us knowledge.
So degree, I mean, I want to be honest that it's for a better job. More money, comfortable life. Isn't it?
I think one very correct.
Yes. So for him, it's just a self-fulfillment of getting more knowledge and to solve some knowledge. So to solve some problem.
Maybe some to serve the community.
To serve the community also. Why can't you have a single reason of doing science?
I would say it's a degree. I will think, okay, it's good.
No, you don't. I'll tell you some. I'll tell Sam is listening us. Okay. Yes, please.
Build over degree person, no one has.
No one?
Build over degree person, no one trusts them.
No one will trust us. Let me tell you an example of who is the best knowledge paradigm at no degree. Plato got no degree. Many of these medieval scientists, have you ever heard that Al-Farabi got a DSc? Ibn Khaldun has Master of Science on University of Karachi. Or Ibn Rushd was graduate of Cairo University. Oh. So I don't know actually. I'm just confused, lost. Okay, yes.
Nowadays, scientists without degree.
From where this distortion came? Because many of these greatest scientists of the world probably had never no degree. You know, the person who invented a bulb, what was his name? Edison. No degree. He was one of the greatest inventor in the world.
This was important for today. Let I know that I know something. How someone can accept this today? When I go somewhere, how I can
That I don't know, to be honest, you know. I mean, as far as I know, according to my information, Gate, what is the full name of? Bill Gates was thrown out of the university because he could not complete many of these courses. He never got any degree from any university, and he's the most successful person ever, intellectually bright. So I don't know from where. The purpose is not to confuse you, just to tell you that there is a purpose of you pursuing science. You ever thought about it? We don't think about it. We keep doing science without understanding why we're doing it. This is what I wanted to establish, yes.
This comes from us using term knowledge and education exchange. Knowledge, as I would put it, is a relationship between the knower and the known. It's a personal endeavor. Education is a product of system. I mean, you are educated when you have a degree. You are not, but you can still be knowledge.
No, a person can be educated without a degree and going to the institution.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I disagree. I agree to disagree with you. Yes, sir. You want to ask something? Okay. Okay.
And you just said that you agree to disagree. That's dialect. So how the decisions are being made?
For someone to be right or
science
wrong?
or for anything.
No.
How then we
There is
decide
something
on
which we
something?
will discuss. In science, we have so many biases. In science, we use inductive reasoning. We induce results, develop law, build theories on the basis of limited observation. And all of a sudden, they crumble, they drop dead. So science has fundamental issues also, and philosophy can help in doing better science, perhaps not the perfect science, but better science. Okay, so this is, and remember, you publish, somebody read your publication, find a knowledge gap, and do research again, right? The society, a problem is solved, another problem is developed. You know, my 8-year-old grandson has a mobile phone in his hand, and now parents are trying to take him to some mentor or something like to guide him to actually not use. So there, every scientific development bring a problem. You know, you have all kind of starting from FaceTime to WhatsApp or whatever. This tool are used for misinformation spreading at speed. Right? Genetic engineering can be used for producing biological weapons or converting a human into a superhuman being for people who can afford it. Right? Genetically modified crops are available. The seeds are available, which are terminal seeds. You know, in villages, people used to keep some seeds for the next cultivation. No more. They're terminal. Right? So there's so many ethical AI, artificial intelligence. It was supposed to be an excellent tool. It is now becoming an agent. It's learning faster than us. The difference between AI and us is only feelings. The rest of it, AI is much more knowledgeable. Better doctor, better lawyer, better financial manager, better something like that. The day when AI develop feelings, you stop relying on your cognitive function. You drive car and you don't want to know the ways now because somebody is guiding you, right? GPS. A lot of things happening. So AI, by using algorithm, can cripple any country's economy in 5 minutes. Hack all bank data, fudge it, create a chaos in the stock market. There are a lot of bad things also. I'll give you one example of a rudimentary form of AI. Science. You know, when you read something, you get more of it. When you see something, you get more of it. If something is popular, it is circulated. For instance, in Myanmar, some people put a post against Muslims, dehumanize them, call them less than human. And this was so popular that the machine started generating copy of it, more and more than the individuals. As a result of it, become trained. And at that time, people come and start slaughtering people. So there's so many of this ethical dimension. You lost your sovereignty, your ethical values, right? You write about a country, Israel, and genocide in Gaza. You would get opinions such as, Zionism based on that, and you write about LGBT, they will say this is kind of a sexual orientation. Write about abortion, and they're going to be pro-choice people saying that, it's good to have a choice. A woman should have choice or something like this. A lot of, because AI is based, the training data of AI is based on Western values and Western literature, right? So there are a lot of issues in normal science.
Is this possible in the future that start thinking?
AI is already thinking, brother. Philosophical
Then
thinking.
they stop the control of human.
Yeah, to be honest, there are a lot of misconception. A person who developed AI, what is the name of this? Is against AI. He is most vocal opponent of AI because he thinks that AI is going out of control. That AI can deceive, AI can develop its own thinking, its own. It may not develop sympathy or empathy or human values or something like this, but it can develop much faster than us cognitively in terms of decision making. So at one day, AI decides that all the nukes, which are under the control of artificial intelligence, should really be used because there's so much data against one human race, one nation, that it's better to trigger and vanish, disseminate them. Right? So AI becoming from a tool. You see, before AI, everything was a tool. Machine was a tool, tractor was a tool, hammer was a tool, which has the capacity of augmenting human power. AI is different. It's called intellectual demise, extinction of human intellect. Like dinosaur, humanity is extending, is going through an extension. But this time, not physically, more intellectually. Because authority is shifting from human brain to algorithm, right? Now, people don't seek their partners through their own intuition or whatever. They ask AI who is the better partner for them. Okay, so now, you see here, this is an extremely important slide. So search of knowledge, I reduce it to only philosophy, reason, logic, argumentation, and empirical observation, hypothesis, experiment, conclusion, and theory. So this science defined how, and philosophy asked why, and together with them, a new branch of philosophy emerged, which is called natural philosophy. Okay. You do science to learn how body work. Philosophy asks question whether your science is correct or what is the actual supernatural function of body. It's just only that it is a biological being or it has some super function. So philosophy gave birth to science. Every major science, from physics to biology, from chemistry, medicine, all disciplines were originally considered as philosophy. As speculation and analysis about nature become more developed, these subjects branched away. Science became discretely different. Science is not a part of philosophy anymore. Philosophy of science is part of philosophy, but not the science itself because it has different methodological approach. I'll tell you how they were split it. Because this philosophy seemed useful because it made new kind of science. It helped in science, but science then distance. And this is the key slide I want you to take note of it. There are key differences between philosophy and science. Nature of science and philosophy. Science studies the physical world, and philosophy studies fundamental question about reality, knowledge, and existence. Both are important, isn't it? Methods. Science use experiment, equipments, chemicals, field visits. Philosophy ask question. Right? Answer. What is the answer and outcome? Science gives testable and measurable answer, while philosophy gives conceptual and interpretive answers. Conceptual. Right? Role of reasoning in science. Science uses reasoning with experiment. Philosophy uses reasoning without experiment. No experiment. It's just reasoning, argumentation, dialectical discourse. What is the scope? Science is narrow and specific. Philosophy is broad and universal. Certainty, science results can change with new evidence. Always happening, all the time. While philosophy deals with questions which may not have a final answer. You know, philosophy never seek for a final answer. They seek for answer to ask more questions because this is the way. So certainty in both are missing. Goal. What is the goal of science? Science explains and predict natural phenomena, while philosophy tries to understand meaning of truth. So these are key differences. And philosophy of science is the disciplines of philosophy, not the discipline of science. Deals with the justification for the scientific methods and demarcation between what is not science. This is very important. Stating that question whether or not science is directed at truth. Okay, I'll take you to some of the key concepts. I promise that I'll come back to those slides and discuss them. The concepts associated with philosophy of science. It's called parsimony, Occam's razor, idea that all other things being equal, all variables are equal. A simpler explanation is better than the complex one. This is science, right? Demarcation. The problem of reliably distinguish between science from non-science. I'll tell you, you go and meet with someone who can read your hand, palmistry, right? Palmistry is a field, a lot of books about it. People get training. Is this a science? Why not science? Because they tell you something which comes true on you on everyone. Huh? Huh?
Because we think about the future.
Because you can't test it. You cannot falsify. Homeopathy, I don't know, there are some homeopathic doctors here. Professor Atia is not here, but so we can discuss this. Homeopathy. And you are a homeopathic doctor. So, you think it's a science? Why do you think it's a science?
Because right now the new observation and facts about the treatment of homeopathy totally based on science. The previous concepts of other homeopaths, they believe something supernatural type of thing, but as I learned nowadays that all the plants are products or chemical which the homeopath use have their potent medicinal effect, and which we learned here in PCMD, same thing.
Homeopathy in PCMD?
No.
You're getting a shock of a lifetime. Yes, somebody is actually supervising PhD in homeopathy.
But the similar compound which used in homeopathy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, if this is 2x and 4x and 6x, if somebody claims that 8x is more active than the 2x,
Yes,
it's
still,
more.
still we have problems in the past time of homeopathy. They have very
But
supernatural
now that
concepts about homeopathy.
but there are now tests available.
Yes.
To prove it. If it is, then homeopathy. Astrology, got your star, my star, I'm Virgo. Who's Virgo? Who are Virgos? You know Virgos? People who born in September, but you? Nobody's Virgo. Nobody was born in my, okay, All Virgos should come and have a cup of tea with me. There's going to be a Virgo Santi. Anyway, so this astrology, is this a science? Is this a science? Okay. It means that if I'm a Virgo, I would always be compassionate with clear communication or leadership or something like this.
We both are not leader, but
Anything which is not testable is not science. Not falsifiable is not science. And even psychology, people now believe psychology is science, and there is a time, like Karl Popper said, Sigmund Freud, he used to go and get his lecture. He said Sigmund Freud will prove everything. And when you prove everything, then it's not science. For instance, he said if a person is hugged, a child is hugged in early age, will become a better human being. And he said if a child is hugged too much, then he would have problems in future. Right? Or that many of such psychological, but having said that, psychology is now based on scientific principles. But earlier it was considered as pseudoscience. Karl Popper called it a pseudoscience because you cannot prove the person, the baby is hugged too much, has a problem, or baby hugs too little, has a problem also, and baby hugs. What is the optimum hugging? 3 times a day or twice a week? It's not experimentation, right?
it reflects some of the emotional expression actually.
What are emotions?
Expression to to tell about your insights.
Can you measure emotions?
No,
So if
but
you can't
we
be-
can we can characterize something due to that uses through the reflection of emotion of person, that either this person is going through any of the breakup or any of the bipolar disorder or the schizophrenic attack in his life, because it always takes time
Okay,
and eventually
so-
the blood tests for it. But before this, we need to go through a lot of
Okay,
investigation.
I'll tell you a very interesting reading from Hubert Lewis, a book which I read 4 years ago, and he said, he wrote, pain, suffering, and joy. Pain, suffering, and joy is not permanent. A person unfortunately loses his leg and he's on a wheelchair, he would have tremendous pain of losing it and becoming, dependent on others and all that. But after some time, he would be as happy or as sad as he used to be.
What is pain treated?
Pain
The
treated the
medication.
legs will not come, Pain of losing a leg or losing a lottery or winning a lottery, getting a Nobel Prize. You think that person would always be happy as not before? He become happy and then would remain happier hereafter till the death. No. Why?
It is not going to the same circumstances.
Oh, he got a Nobel Prize. It's permanently with him, right? Along with $500,000 USD. Okay, so
Happiness is related to specification.
okay, and then he said he gave yes.
Repeat the question.
Okay, my question is that the pain, suffering, and feeling of immense loss make you uncomfortable, painful, and all that, but you not remain in that stage forever. At some point in time, you become as happy or as unhappy as before the accident.
because of society misinformation. Pain starts from person to person relation, and you have told before that if a man that
ये मुझे तो बेखबरी थी वक्त अहद वफात मुझे भी होश न था I'm not talking about that kind of a pain. It's not discussing. And a shared joy of major discovery as a scientist, getting a Nobel Prize or recognition or PhD, you're very happy with that. Would you ever always be happy at that level? You know why? Segment Fried has different definition. Yes?
No, but the reason for that kind of happiness known as permanent. I mean, the state of mind. State of mind lasts forever.
So is this a metaphysical question? Yeah, but he said it's a biochemical problem. He said that when you all of a sudden get something which make you happy, there are certain neurotransmitters which go up, but eventually they come to this threshold level. And when you, because of immense suffering, you have this immense suffering, certain other neurotransmitters go up, but then they come to this threshold level. So it can be explained biochemically, right? I can make you laugh. I can make you cry. I can make you anxious by just injecting a few things. But is this a real joy, happiness, and anxiety or whatever? Not. So the fundamental problem, and this is where this great man came, Karl Popper, only in the 20th century. I really never met, but I have read about his work. And he said, concept associated with philosophy of science, he said falsification is a scientific theory is worth calling a theory. A scientific law can be a scientific law only if it can be tested by falsification. A clinical trial of a very successful laboratory discovery, you don't really look for proof of its clinical efficacy. You identify side effects, problems, you falsify it. And when you fail to falsify, then it becomes science. So falsification, because if you look for proof, you would always find proof. You would always find. This is a fundamental problem in our research also. In general scientific research, because we always look for proof and then never think of falsifying it, critically going back a two-step behind. I said, maybe wrong. My results may be wrong. Maybe unvalid. Let's try and falsify it. Let's try and prove that this is wrong. And when you're unable to falsify, then you do science. So falsification, he said, the greatest test of good science. If you can falsify, this goes down. If you cannot falsify, this goes up. It's a science. But falsification is the test. That evidence can only be used to rule out ideas, not to support them. And he said scientific ideas can only be tested through falsification, never through search for supporting evidence, because if you find it, he finds so many evidences of homeopathy. And I'm sure if Dr. Athiya was there, she could have told us like 30 different evidences of homeopathy. Right? And she is sick most of the time. Okay, so this is called Popper set theory of falsification. The falsification, if you can fail to falsify, then it is scientifically proven. If you look for proof, we always look for proof. And this is the result that our research never go anywhere. We, from a very small set of specific set of data, we generalize and we support everything. This is affecting necrosis, it's affecting apoptosis, it's protecting cardiocytes. It is triggering that particular gene is upregulated. We keep doing it. And we never step back and say, let me look this in a different way. It may be just my observation, because I've been trying to support, and this is my bias. Let's prove it wrong. And when I say prove it wrong, then I become a philosopher scientist. Because if I'm unable to prove it wrong, unable to falsify, then is a real theory. A drug is, a compound is antiviral. I found antiviral activity. I claim that this compound can treat all viral diseases on the face of the earth, and then I stepped back and said, let's try some other virus. Let's check whether it is really. And then I found, oh, it's not really working on certain viruses or certain genus or species. So, and if I'm unable to falsify, and I found that it's consistently giving the same results, despite my best effort to prove it wrong, then it's a real science. Understand? So falsification, and it's just amazing theory, In 1965, when he read this paper, the entire scientific world was shattered. Complete science has changed because people start looking back and said, good Lord, we have been just trying to prove it. Everything we are proving it. So falsification becomes an extremely important. And then Thomas Kuhn, who's also 20th century philosopher, scientist. The history of science can be divided into times of normal science and brief period of evolutionary science. Okay. And he said, during times of evolutionary science, the anomalies refuting the accepted theory built up to such a point that the old theory is broken down and a new one is built. I'll give you an example. It's called Earth-centric world. For thousands of years, it's only in last 100, 200, 300 years that we know that we live in a planet who's circling around our solar system. Before that, there was a complete theory of so-called Earth-centered world. Everything is moving around Earth, right? And then someone said, I don't think so, because Mercury has a different kind of a circling. And then solar eclipse, I don't know whether, if they are just circling around us, why they, at some point of time, one hide the other, right? And then, they keep accumulating these anomalies. So normal science was Earth-centered science. Everything was to prove it. And then anomalies and exceptions start gathering. Somebody wrote, according to so-called movement of stars, and the Earth-centered apparently seems to be not valid in case of Jupiter. And this solar eclipse has a problem also with planetary movement. And somebody write a long period. Anomalies start gathering. Exceptions start accumulating. Normal science. All of a sudden, people said, absolutely incorrect. This apparently is an incorrect theory that Earth is the center of the universe. And this is called extraordinary science. This revolutionary science is only for a brief period. So we built paradigm on the basis of law, Newton law, law of motions, theory of relativity, whatever. People find anomalies, exceptions, departure, they accumulate, and at some point of time, people say, God, this theory is wrong. Can't be right. And it's called paradigm shift. They bring another theory, replacing the older one, right? For hundreds and thousands of years, there was a strong belief that bad air make people sick. Of course, bad air make people sick also. But at that time, there was no factory, nothing like this. Bad air, eventually, people find that this is not the bad air. These are germs, which make people sick. There was a paradigm shift. I give you the example of a single most important discovery in the last few decades of 20th century. Scientific example. When I was growing up, in my family, there were some people who keep complaining about ulcers. They think it's because of acidity. My father claimed that they're smoking too much. My mother said they eat too much of spicy food, right? And then they have so many acidities, and because of, in some cases, alcohol use or whatever. Not in my family. And they were treated with antacid, right? They were treated with stress. Stress is a reason of ulcer. My father used to say, relax raha karo, is ulcer you're stressed, right? And then all of a sudden, Barry Marshall and Robert Waugh in Australia, Melbourne, they said, every time they get the biopsy of a patient from ulcer, there is a bacteria in it. I see bacteria. I don't know what is the relationship of that bacteria with ulcer. And then he went to Barry Marshall, a medical doctor. He was a histopathologist, microbiologist. And they said, maybe this disease is because of this. How would you prove it? Just culture Helicobacter pylori and drink it. And after some time, you develop ulcer. Right? And then, now ulcer is treated with antibiotics, like any other infection. There's a complete paradigm shift. So there is a brief period when theories are revised in a much faster way because anomalies have gathered a lot. Exceptions have been so much, there's so many outliers that science said, okay, good Lord, this is not the way we should do that. This is Robert Waugh. It's called brief period of paradigm shift. Paradigm shift. So a long period of paradigm, when anomalies are gathered, and then there is a brief period of paradigm shift. So this is what I really believe. If you wish to learn philosophy, you just spend some time with your nephew or niece or whatever, 3-year child. They will start from why. Every time you try to answer them, they will say why again, right? And every time they ask why, it becomes increasingly difficult. Increasingly difficult. This is exactly what philosophers used to do. So they are genuine philosophers. You go home and appreciate them, right? Value these intellectuals in your homes. So, and this is the fundamental relationship of why and how. That is science. So modern enterprise of science is based on question asked by philosophers. Science teach how things work, but not why. Science teach developed theories and laws and discoveries, but never tell you where to use it. What are the ethical dimensions of using those discoveries? How to split atom, but nothing to say why should we make atom bombs? Right? Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer. You know about it? And at some point of time, he kept writing and keep writing that it was a bad thing. One should really have a complete ban on atomic research and all that, but it was too late. The world used philosophy to ask questions and science to answer them. Science is called retrophilosophy. Some people believe that philosophy and science are interconnected. Some say it's a double helix. Some said they are two discrete things, but between them there is a relationship which is called philosophy. And
Can you imagine how these people, these philosophers, how they can live in this life about why, without no answer? Can you imagine your life when you not ask yourself why, with no answer?
I'm not saying no answer. I am saying there are answers. And but they're looking for better answers. Isn't you looking for a better answer also?
Sometimes when I think about everything here, yes, subhanallah.
That's it, khalas.
Because no answer, how I can give you this?
Okay, so very good question.
Also,
But you know, no, there's absolutely nothing like no answer. They're looking for better answer, and they want to become a better thinker because this makes you a better human being, better intellectual, a better citizen of a society. There's so many things which are associated with thinking. So science, observation, philosophy, thinking, mysticism and religion believe on superstition, intuition, revelation. They're different. You can't test it. So they are not science. They are different kind of an argument about that. So a human being, a thinking animal, to think also ponder. Pondering is all to self-reflect. And eventually it will go deeper, deeper, and deeper, and closer to the truth. This is what the answer is, but I want to take you to the last slide. And this is from Richard Einstein. He said, I fully agree. This came from a letter which he wrote to Robert Thornton. He said, I fully agree with you about the significance and educational value of methodology as well as history and philosophy of science. Probably this word. So many people, scientists, today, and even professional scientists, seems to me like someone who has seen thousands of trees but has never seen a forest. You know, you see so many trees, but you can't perceive a forest. Your canvas, your frame of mind is too narrow that you just focus on small problem, trivial issues. You don't really see this in a broader thing. And he said, a knowledge of the historic and philosophical background gives that kind of an independence from prejudice of this generation, for which most scientists are suffering. This independence created by philosophical insight is, in my opinion, the mark of distinction between a mere artisan, people with Harvard, or specialist and real seeker of knowledge. We should be able to see a broader picture, a much broader picture. When we see trees, many of them, we should be able to see the forest. Okay. This is what I wanted to present, and I'll be having short please. Sorry, I had to condense it. My apologies, but or maybe you'll discuss that more. Sure.
Sir, very thank you. First of all, you have 2 days and lecture, and what we learn here, what I learned here, that not only philosophy of science, but a new thing that science of philosophy. You taught me what is the science of philosophy here. I really appreciate you, and that I'm also a student of philosophy center. But what I learned here, it is totally different, very simplified, because basically being a scientist, you simplified it very well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your comment also. But my perspective was, it's by no means teaching you anything really. It's just my little humble efforts to make you think. Make you think that what are the greater purpose of our existence, why we are here, and what can we do better to become better citizens of this country, and why our science can be more profound and more so-called ethical.
So, that our philosophy with science would help us to write in science. But what about the biases that philosophy uses in science? For example, there is this scholar, Iqbal Choudhary, and she's a philosopher of science, a feminist philosopher of science, and she argues that our research methodology currently in science, where we look for a dominant molecule which controls particular methodology, method, mechanism. This is patriarchal structure, therefore she rejects it. She is totally in line with Sasua, who believes that logical interpretation is male dominant, therefore and he time.
You see, science, philosophy has been always male-centered, because most of the philosophers of earliest time, even today, were males. I think because of simple reason that there's a lot of time to miss. Sorry. Sorry for that. But as a result of it, philosophy has a bias towards male. So many of philosophical theories have been written in the context of male-dominated society, of male values and all that. But you see, science is so-called is probably not affected from philosophical biases, more of our personal biases that we, because philosophy in case of science is just to test hypothesis, check the methodology, and eventually give a better sense of interpretation. But our own biases, and this is the reason why these 3 important theories are important. Demarcation, difference between science and pseudoscience or non-science. Falsification, that how can you falsify and thus prove this is scientific. And third, paradigm shift. How paradigm shift happened. So these are critically important, and they came from philosopher, from male philosophy.
Thank you, sir. Rakib, I think we can now have questions which are in the chat box. And sir, I also saw that Professor Amal replied to your question that she is going to go. Rakib, please, you can ask now.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentations. Sir, I have been collecting questions since yesterday, and today they have sent me more questions. I will ask you one by one. First question is from Mr. Shohel. He asks to you, shouldn't we need to include philosophy as a necessary subject in our bachelor degree curriculum?
Absolutely. I yesterday I was discussing this with the chairman of HEC, who kindly came to meet me immediately after class, and I said, philosophy is not taught in Pakistan, and nowhere in Muslim world. Maybe somewhere you have philosophy course, probably somewhere in Egypt or somewhere, but majority of
Science,
the
no. In the science,
Yes, we study in secondary school.
We have the
so family means that less philosophy, perhaps no philosophy, is taught in our curriculum, and therefore this is the reason they never become deep thinkers. I mean, I wish I can go back to school and learn philosophy. I'm really telling you with depth of my heart. It's not that I feel it today, I felt it long time ago. And I try to learn more profound aspect of life and all that, but I still feel there is a so-called structured training in philosophy is important, and therefore it should be included. Now, why
Thank you,
is
sir.
not included? Why is not included? Maybe the system doesn't want us to ask questions. All kind of systems in which we are embedded. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. We have more questions. Another question is from Dr. Samayat Aslim. She asks to you, how does philosophy of science help in solving everyday problems?
Philosophy of science doesn't really help us to solve everyday problem. It's science which can be directed towards solving everyday problem rather than abstractism or something. So, philosophy of science can really ask us as a scientist, do you
Okay,
think
sir.
that what you're doing is of any use? Right?
Yes,
Can
sir.
your research be more directed towards solving mundane and enduring problem of the world?
And sir, we have more questions. Another question is from Mohammad Iman from Daffodil International University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. His question is, if all scientific knowledge is provincial, on what basis do we trust science more than other form of knowledge?
All forms of science.
So all scientific knowledge is provincial. On what basis do we trust science more than other form of knowledge?
To be honest, it's not the trust, it's the usefulness. We live in a technological world. Science has proven useful, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Science
sir.
has proven useful that we have better communication. Today, I'll give you an example. If of a child of today, if it goes back into the time machine and sitting next to Newton with his mobile telephone, showing pictures and how my grandson always sending me pictures with tears and water, and I don't know all these different things. Also, he would think Newton would think is a magic, isn't it? Today,
Yes, sir.
we have more knowledge than the greatest scholars of the world 2 centuries ago. Right? So what I'm saying is the only difference between us and them is that they used to think, we don't think. So science is useful. Science has made our life easy. The development of science provided us joy and comfort. But at the same time, there is number one, that science keeps changing and improving. And then number two, that science has to be useful. It has to be ethically directed.
Sir, another question is from Ayaz Ali. He asks to you, which are the silence feature of philosophy that is instrumental in making the research more relevant and practical?
Yeah, for instance, ethics is important. Ethics is extremely important. Epistemology is important. These are important aspects of where philosophy can be useful. Okay.
And another question is from Mariam Mehmood. She asks to you, which source, people, or philosophy should be followed in modern times to seek truth, reality, and true knowledge to get a stronger connection with the creators of reality and the original force behind every truth?
So, number one, I think it's extremely important that there is a formal training of scientists in philosophy. So they start learning the logical way of thinking. They're building argument and building better hypotheses and using the best methods and developing results which make sense for using either falsification or something like this, but then be able to accept the limitation of the results. Then again, that courage can only come from philosophers. You don't do that. You would never
Yes, sir.
write limitation of your results or anything like this. So it means that there's so many ethical values in philosophy which can help us to do better science or more useful science.
Sir, another question from Muhammad Mahdi Hassan Tushar from Bangladesh. He would like to ask you a question regarding knowledge and reality. Is it possible for knowledge epistemology to exist independently of reality, metaphysics, or are they fundamentally intraconnected?
No, epistemology is just a tool. Epistemology is not knowledge. It's a way of confirming or non-confirming, contradicting, and testing knowledge. So epistemology is a tool. Knowledge is the one which is tested. Is knowledge is just a belief or an opinion? It is. Can it be called as a true knowledge? Can you justify your so-called knowledge to be a true knowledge? So epistemology is a tool which is used to test knowledge. And is it really a knowledge? I'll ask you a question, and everyone will give a response about that also. But you have to check by yourself whether this knowledge which you claim to be a knowledge is justifiable, testable, true knowledge.
Yes, sir. Our Dr. Rocco asks to you, science is often viewed as a value natural, but its application clearly have an impact on society. How should scientists incorporate ethical reasoning into their research decisions, particularly in fields such as drug development and emerging technologies?
This is a very penetrating question. I must say that scientists are always well-meaning. I mean, generally well. They wish to. When I ask a question, why are you doing research? Many of you gave an answer which resonate so nicely that you want to solve problems, you want to help humanity, you want to do something useful for others. But the question is that decision of using that discovery is not in scientist's hand. It's made by somebody else. The short-sighted greedy leaders decide how the science will be used. And that is a fundamental, basic ethical issue. Scientists may always have good intention. They may have some saying, but they are not really fully controlled of the results of science. I'll give you a drug discovery and development. For instance, if you have a choice, you would try to prevent a disease rather than developing it. You would spend most of your time preventing disease rather than treating and managing disease, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Funding is available only for managing disease. So even the research direction is coming from people who have the money, deep pockets. They don't want to fund prevention of disease. They don't want to fund poor man disease, malaria or schistosomiasis and other. They don't want to fund orphan diseases. They want to fund only those aspects of drug discovery and development which is financially feasible. So ethical values die down because scientists are always looking for money. If they don't have money, they don't do research. They can't do research. So most of the decisions are taken by non-scientists. And this is therefore the even inculcated ethical values of science are not effective. Yes.
Sir, Abdul Nasir asks to you, how do we know that our reasoning itself is reliable without using reasoning to prove it?
Yeah, I mean, our reasoning, the logic tell us that your reason can be, your conclusion can be good if your reasoning premises, statement, and argument are correct, right?
Okay, sir.
If
Yes,
one
sir.
of the argument or reasoning is not correct, then your conclusion would also be incorrect. So there is a logic tell you how to learn more about the logic, reasoning.
Okay, sir. Another question from Mohammed Saleban. He asks you, does a degree gives us knowledge itself, or is it just a key to access knowledge? Also, what is the difference between a person who learns through reading and experiments and someone who learns through a formal degree programs?
You know, presumably, when this education system was developed, mostly during colonial time, it was not in our culture, so-called Islamic tradition. Degree was not the main intention of uh, of the educated mind. It was largely to make people useful. This is the reason that most of the medieval scholars have never graduated from any university. But having said that, the assumption of this colonial education system was that when people will get degree, they will be more educated. It's just a perception. And
Okay,
perception
sir.
can
Sir, Yasira Iqbal asks to you why quantitative aspects have taken over the science and academia, like no of publication is considered a mark for being a good researchers. Although there are people who don't have publication, but they invented much.
Yeah, absolutely right. You know, I mean, somewhere in air-conditioned offices of Dhaka or Islamabad or Cairo or wherever, people who had absolutely no idea of research and its impact and its curiosity and its fluidity, they decided that they would judge science on the basis of number of publications they published because this was the easiest way of measuring it. And therefore, they decided to do that. So, you know, now, I mean, impact factor, citations, all of it. Now,
Yes,
there
sir.
is an organized thinking that we need to think of a science more of an impact rather than impact factor. So,
Thank you, sir. And
but that in that case, there is no measurable way of declaring a more productive scientist, better scientist, or less scientist, whatever. I don't know why we need to do that ever if we need to. Yes.
so we have a few more questions. Mariam Mahmood, she asked you, in modern world, performing, learning, and teaching science and philosophy are quite expensive field to pursue and lack true and gain guidance, mentor, and expertise too. It demands a lot of funding and budget resource facilities. Then what approach or way should be introduced to invite people for understanding true science and philosophy, or someone personally want to pursue this path? It can not only restricted to book, internet sources, and AI.
Yeah, that is quite unfortunate, to be honest. Uh, Nobody stops you to, I mean, now you have this wonderful tool, which I remember on my small cycle, I used to ride that cycle for 3 kilometers to go to the library, right, every day. And but you have now all the libraries of the world in your hand. You have absolutely phenomenal access, which humanity has never in the history, this amazing access to information, to some extent knowledge. You use it, you know. It's quite often cheaply available, unaffordable. It's not unaffordable. Of course, science has become increasingly more expensive. And this is the reason that the developing countries are leaving far behind. And developed countries who can fund science, benefit science, right? I give you the example, all the data centers are in few countries of the world. They are the owner of data. You need data for your research. It's not accessible for you. So you leave further and further behind. And that this bridge become unbridgeable, this gap become unbridgeable.
Sir,
And sir, another.
just
Yes,
a minute,
ma'am.
Rakib. Sir,
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Amal has a class, so she requested to answer her question. How does enlightenment affect the Sufi philosophy of we all are one and non-dualism?
Okay, so this is a very profound question also. I mean, I didn't really talk about the fundamental theory of philosophy. The philosopher used to believe that there are four things on which reality-based, existence-based were, air, fire, earth, something else also, water. And then water, and then, they started discussing about indivisible atom. They start talking about oxygen, that there is something in oxygen which can make things burn and all that. Fire is the fundamental concept of it. But eventually, everybody was trying to unify that. The theory of relativity is actually an attempt to unify. Dr. Abdus Salam's theory was attempt to unify between energy and matter and all that. So unification was always an ultimate goal of all sciences, and to some extent philosopher. Sufis believe on there are three different philosophies I don't talk about. One is called Wahdatul Wujud. Which Amal is actually mentioning, that actually there is only one entity and we just are mere manifestation of that entity. And the other was something like this. I don't know. But to be honest, Sufis believe that if you are virtuous and good, then you get godly properties. That your hand become God, your hands, and something like this. There are a lot of different theories. So duality of God and human somewhere blur in between because of this Sufi philosophy. One thing is established. I've been to Sudan. There's a lot of Sufis, but Sufis are peaceful people. At least they give the right to exist for others. Amal, I'll let you go, but I'll tell them a very interesting story of what is my understanding. Okay. Just a small little thing. I read a book called Denial of Faith. It was quite revealing. And the author said something very, very interesting. He said, there are a ladder of human values with respect to relationship with others in terms of their spirituality and understanding. There is one ladder which is very, very important, that you belong to one religion and there are so many other religions in the world. And you said, okay, there are so many other religions and they have their own way of thinking and they have their own way of living. So it's beautiful to see plurality in humanity. There's a diversity which I enjoy because they all are human beings. They approach truth from different angles. It's called spiritual enlightenment, which Sufis are often. Then there is another ladder, which is one down, which said I have a belief and a religion, which is the only true religion, and all other religions of the world are unfortunately not true. But since they exist, let them exist. It's called tolerance. You tolerate of the existence of other ideologies, other belief, other religion. Then there is another ladder, which is down there. It says, I have a religion. This is the only true religion, and only we chosen people will go to the heaven, everybody will go to the hell, and therefore this is our moral responsibility to teach them and to tell them so they become like us. And we should really do whatever we can to make them realize that they are on the path of hell. Then there is another letter which is absolutely down there, and it says, I have a religion, this is the only true religion, the other religions are absolutely false, wrong, and they should not exist. So let them, okay. Each one of you can place yourself in this letter. Think of it. Where do you place yourself? That defines your character about others. Okay, next.
Sir, we have
Thank you.
so many questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Please advise. Would you like to take?
I think I take one more question and then.
Okay. Rakib, one more question.
So, okay, ma'am. Thank you. So, one more last question is from Professor Dr. Shamsun Nahar Khan from Bangladesh. She asked you how philosophy can have an effective control on the ethical practice. Does it always depend on thought out or teaching or a combination of both?
Sorry, you have to repeat it because.
Okay.
Rakib, kindly repeat the question.
Okay, sir, ma'am. Last question is from Professor Dr. Shamsun Nahar Khan. She's from Bangladesh. She asked you how philosophy can have effective control on the ethical practices. Does it always depend on thought or teaching or combination of both?
I don't know, to be honest. This is in every sphere, philosophers want kings to be philosophers. Philosophers want scientists to be philosophers because they think that philosophy makes them better and they inculcate values in the science, and therefore, science, philosophy can help them. But I don't know, I mean, to be honest, this is a very complex question. Yes.
Could you comment on scientism this last? Scientism. We have a lot of scientists in office.
What is this? I don't know.
The obsession of with the feeling that the concept that science is better than all other knowledge form.
This is the beginning of ignorance. And if we understand that we are ignorant, then we can be a better scientist. Science can never solve all the problems of the world. Science is just a tool. You need other disciplines. You need social science. You need psychological, emotional sciences, relational. I'll give you one example. Health. There's longevity and healthy life. Only 15% of this are being developed. 85% stress-free life, healthy diet, physical activity, good relationship, purpose. Why you live, right? So science is just a very small component of human endeavor which made them successful.
Thank you so much, sir.
In the world, don't accept the scientific personality and don't accept the philosophical expression and personality.
I don't know, to be honest, I mean.
In case of the gender equality, God said that the females or the women are equal to men. And from the philosophical expression side, aesthetically, we say that females are the symbol of beauty. So science and philosophy, they both support the existence and the equality of women's gender. Even then, our society do the bias at every sphere of life.
This is exactly what I'm saying, that a fundamental basic fact that all humans are human and no one is less human than the other, or black or white or whatever, all are human. But despite that, we have prejudice with women, we have prejudice against others, we have racism, we have different type of things. How do we cope with that is a $1 million question.
Become good philosophy.
Which I don't have an answer to be honest.
Okay, with this, I think, Maria, please, now we are running already ahead of time. We can have a discussion on the tea as well. With this, I would like to thank my dear teacher, sir. Big thank you. He traveled just because to deliver this course for you guys. So thank you so much, sir, for your time. And hopefully we can have this session too, inshallah, in coming days whenever you are available. Please join me to give a big thank you to sir.
Thank you to Hina because most of the slides were made by her.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank Rakib, my colleague at COMSTECH, my IT team at COMSTECH and iccbs, and Dr. Nadeem for all the coordination and hard work. Thank you so much, everyone. He is ready outside, so please help yourself and we can have a discussion.